Hey everybody, welcome to part 2 of the WARCROW two-player starter set series. This one's going to focus on the Bakhlia Farm Scenery pack. This is a new Cardstock Terrain pack from Corvus Belli, which is included in the Winds of the North two-player starter set, which you haven't watched the first part of this, then you can tune into that. It'll be available for my patrons in an unedited full format, along with a Q&A, as well as an edited format for free, of course, on YouTube. This one right here is going to be a, well, how do you deal with Cardstock Terrain? Now, luckily, because Corvus Belli's Infinity is one of my favorite games, I've got a ton of experience building Cardstock Terrain, and I got a couple quick tips and tricks for making this pretty painless for you guys. So I'm going to assemble my tools, get them all together, and then show you what we need to get started. The biggest things are going to be that you will need a Sharpie, like a king-size Sharpie here. This stuff you can glue. You can glue it with either cyanoacrylate super glue, which is what I'm going to use today. If you want it to dry a little bit more slowly, you can also use things like just plain old Elmer's glue. This is more than quick enough to get this stuff done, though. We've also got the game mat in here, as well as a whole bunch of tokens. I'm not going to bother punching out all the tokens for you guys, but I will give you a general idea of the size. This is our strides measurer. I don't know how I feel about this so far. This game uses 15 millimeter increments for measurements and 30 millimeter base width elements for its overall measurement. So if you want to see a 30 mil base on top of this, that's the length of everything. So we're gonna have everything move in bases. I get that it's a handy unit of measurement if you're gonna do like trig style games, and I'm gonna use the insert right here as an organizer real fast for all of our elements that we're gonna put together. These are going to be a variety of tokens and statuses, which are all like used throughout the course of the game, objective markers and stuff for scoring points during the missions, and then like status markers for like when you're tired and exhausted, as you can become if you get pushed a whole bunch, you get stress markers on you. And then just various statuses for the two players to mark on their guys, and wounds, and all their like variety of like things that you can have over the course of the game. So I'm just gonna punch these out. You can use this handy little tray as an organizer if you want, but I won't make you watch all of that. The one thing I will build, however, is gonna be the turn marker. So you guys can see how that works, and then we'll get on to the main course, which is going to be doing the terrain itself. So I love that Corvus Belli includes all these things. We have a turn marker here, which is also used to track statuses. So for instance, if a unit becomes broken over the course of the game through the morale mechanics in this game, you will get to mark when they can attempt to rally, and it's usually 2 turns past where they've broken from. Now, if you need to pop out small things with this Cardstock Terrain, I like to get an old paintbrush because the rounded back of it tends to not damage things. If you have larger tabs, which we may need later, I'll also use the flat back of like a pair of tweezers to push out. Sometimes what you have is you have tabbing pieces. So like for instance, you can see right here, this little W7 piece has like a cross tab. It's just handier to push out using that flat pack. The Sharpie, I will show you what that's for in a minute. But yeah, we've got these little plastic pieces they're gonna use to attach the turn marker. So turn marker goes in. I'm gonna go, I think, this side bottom, like so, and then we push this. This should just pressure fit together. And we can track our turns, there we go. Whee, so we know what turn everything's gonna be. And then if you get it in tight, it should sit real, it snaps, then it sits flat. All right, that guy's done. There's our tokens for punching out later. Again, I'm not gonna make you watch all that. And then we have the instructions on the inside of the scenery pack itself, which are for the farmhouse, the fences, the shed, and the walls. So we're gonna start with the farmhouse. It's F1, F2, F3, F4. So F1 being the chimney, that's this piece right here. They have done pre-cut bends. So a lot like Tinkerturf's terrain, which I'm a big fan of. Lane over at Tinkerturf makes some of my favorite science fiction. He's also making Fantasy Terrain now as well, him and his compadres. This stuff has been pre-cut to bend so that it just accordions over. This is the first time I've seen CB do this, so this is a neat little development. And then we got the roof piece, which should be, those are the chimney, that's F2 and F3, and then F4, which is over here, there it is. That's F4. Looks like F4 is in just these. Oh, wow, wow, it like wrinklies over. Neato. All right, so there's those pieces all punched out. And now the trick I'm gonna show you, again, for using these are for the tabs that are gonna go in. So using this long flat piece is gonna help those come out perfectly. You can tell I've done a lot of these because I knew I was gonna need something to do long, flat, slidey bits and have those pop out. This is way simpler. And then I think that's all of them. And you want to have something to push them out with, because you will rip the cardstock potentially if you don't push them out properly. And I always try and rip downwards. So if the cardstock did rip, it would be on the other side. There does appear to be the same printing on both these. It doesn't really matter which side, I guess, goes up, but you do need the bends to be on the right side. So you don't want to have the card, like if this caught, it would rip off the design on the inside. So you want to make sure that you're pushing away from the direction that you want it to actually be laid out when you're said and done. This rough shingle side looks like it goes on the bottom. And then any tabs necessary here, doesn't look like it. These two pieces are just gonna slot together. And so to make these stick, I'm just gonna put a dab of super glue inside each of these sections, and then this should hold this together. So these will slot, and this will slot over here, top down. And there's the roof done. I'm sorry, the roof, the body of the thing done. Make sure that's tight and flat, and that should hold it together nicely. And then we're gonna do similar on this side. It looks like, yeah, so it's gonna sit down like this, and that way it's gonna have the proper bend. And I'll put just a little bit of super glue here, like just a dot. Like you don't need a ton, because you're just trying to keep it more than, but if you want this to flat pack, don't glue it, right? Just don't put any glue on it, and you'll have these be able to unpack basically. And that way we've got this nice bend, this kind of almost chalet style building. There we go. There's one half of the roof done, and we'll tab this guy, a little bit of glue again, and then do this side. And I'm gonna do the bottom first this time, because I did feel it push out a little bit. That seems to be easier, yeah. Put the bottom on first, put the top together. And now this is done. Now I can run, I'm gonna do this afterwards though. I could run a lot of super glue in there, but I'm gonna show you my trick now for making this stuff blend. I'm gonna use a Sharpie. You don't have to do this, but this is a nice trick to making the edges look a little more finished. I'm gonna black out the edge of everything. Now I like to use a big one. This is the Sharpie King size. This just means that you don't have that paper color on the edge of things. And if you just run it along the edge of this, you tend to get a nicer finish on your terrain. There we go. It blends a little bit better. And if it's an overhang like this, don't worry about it so much, because you're not gonna see it. But the reason that popped in my mind was this top, see there's a big sort of like open top to this. If you run a Sharpie along here and just get these blacked out, yeah, it's gonna look way better. Oops. And then he draws on it with a Sharpie too. It's fine, you can get that off with isopropyl alcohol. Not hard to do. And it was still wet, so I just managed to rub it off with my thumb. There we go. And then I'll run a bead of super glue into here, just to get that to sit together. Like so. And then it's just this guy. And I'll do the same trick as before. I'll run a little bit of this along the top, where it's gonna be visible. Just using that Sharpie again. Get rid of that paper color in the middle. Now, some terrain I've found like uses it kind of matches the paper color to everything. This one doesn't so much, so I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna use a Sharpie to make it do that. And then I'll put a little bit of glue again in the inside of these slots, and when I push in this chimney, it should stay nice. But like I said before, if you just want this to stay like, so that it can be taken apart, like don't bother. There we go. There it is, there's our house. Not bad, quick to build, looks pretty sharp. I still have to Sharpie off this side, I guess. I'm gonna do the whole thing just to make those ends blend a little bit better. There we go. And that guy is done. All right, so now we're on to the fences. They're pretty simple, F1, F2, F3, and they just got little feet, little footprints. But again, you can go over all of them with the Sharpie, at least on the top parts. That's gonna make that wood or that paper color not stand out so much. These I would probably push out with something that isn't your fingers, because you can see they're kind of a Y shape there. You might very well damage them if you don't. All right, that's all done. And then once again, yeah, little tabs, little dot of super glue or Elmer's glue, whatever your sort of like pick your poison is going to be. And then these guys just slot right in there. And I'm not going to make you watch me Sharpie all these. I'll just do the big pieces of terrain for now. Actually, I might not even Sharpie these ones, because it looks like the coloration of the wood and the paper actually match quite nicely. I think I'll leave these as is. They actually look pretty sharp just by themselves. So those two will be done. And we've seen some fences. And again, I said this about the miniatures themselves. The quick, sort of like easy, intuitive building of these things, like it's just a picture with some letter codes, so you know what pieces to pop out. This really does tickle that. It's kind of like Christmas morning test. And if you guys don't know what the Christmas morning test is, I refer to it constantly. It's basically what's the time and sort of like level of complexity for this kind of a product. If you were to receive it Christmas morning, birthday, whatever, it's just it's a colloquialism, right? So if you don't celebrate Christmas, who cares? It's when you get a gift, do you have to spend a huge amount of time between receiving the gift and having fun with it, right? So the Christmas morning test is how quickly can you be over the build, paint, play hurdle. All right, let's try the shed. So that's gonna be SH1, SH2, and SH3. That's SH3, nice simple piece. And of course, these are real simple. These are just pawns. You just pop those out. Difficult terrain. I'll zhuzh all that stuff up with like physical 3D elements later on, but that's a real simple build. You just pop those out. They give you 2D elements. And then the walls of the shack are here and here, it looks like. And then that cardstock's done. These are the wall sections, and then it's just the other two cardboard walls. Not bad. So this guy is going to go there exactly the same way as the other one did. And this is like an open face, I think, on this little shed, so you could put models inside it potentially. Or maybe not. No, it's got to close. Never mind, it's closed. It's a lean-to, so it kind of like leans forward. And then those are going to go in there. That's all done. Tab those guys together. Job's a good one. And there are some slots for us to punch out here real quickly, and I will go over the edge of this with that Sharpie. But it's just 4 little tabs. And then all we need to do is, again, I don't even know if I need to on this one, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Just because the coloration was pretty similar, like the color of the roof and the color of the paper, like the actual like cardstock was pretty similar. So we'll do it anyway. It can make it look nice. It sharpens everything a little bit. And then some glue on these tabs. And we're good to go. Or as my friend Swan would say, Robert is your father's brother. So this is gonna go, I believe it goes pointy side down. Yeah, so the pointy sides go down like that. And if you wanted to, you could get a pair of side cutters and you could actually just angle that off if you wanted to. You could just clip that right off and get rid of those little tabs. You could do that same thing on the house too if you wanted to. I might actually just try that and see how it goes. So if you wanted to get rid of these tabs, if you're gonna build these permanently and you're gluing them the way I did, you can get some side cutters and just straight up clip those off. Yeah, and then your roof is flat and you don't have these little tabs coming down. And that actually looks way better. I don't mind the tabs on the sides, but the ones poking out of the roof are kind of bothering me because they make it look more toyetic, if that makes sense. I hit myself in the face with that piece of paper. Never cut towards yourselves, children, unless you're me and you're an idiot. I did it again. Yeah, that blends in nicely, actually. There you go. So there's the shed done, and I'll do the same thing on the house afterwards. But you guys have seen what I meant. And then all we've got left is these walls, of which it looks like there are it's 1, 2. And they each have little pillars and tops on the end there. So there's 1, 2, and then they each have 2 of these and a little footprint. W4 and W6. They appear to all be the same. I'm not concerned about mixing these up because I don't see any difference between them at all. And those are all done. And this is all done. It's not a bad amount of terrain, if I'm being honest. For a 2x2 mat, this is a pretty decent. I mean, it's 2 buildings, 2 large walls, 4 small walls, and then the 2D stuff, which is like just rough terrain scatter stuff. If you're just getting started, it's perfectly serviceable for playing a game. And again, if you're looking at it from the just like how quickly you can get to have fun, there's nothing wrong with 2D terrain. I wouldn't stick with it. I would use it as templates for terrain I'm gonna make later on, right? But that's because I'm a maniac and that's how I'm gonna do things. That looks like that is wall section number 1. And then this guy is gonna go on around the corner like that. Not bad. I think I'm gonna have this whole thing built like without the tokens obviously being punched, but I don't care about that. I'm literally gonna use like half those tokens for my first game probably. I'm gonna have all this. It took me an hour to build, roughly an hour to build all the miniatures, and that was including like painstakingly cleaning them all, that they didn't need a lot of cleaning, but making sure that all the mold lines are scraped. And probably like half an hour to build all this terrain. That's pretty good. This terrain's, I mean, obviously this terrain is a bit like different dimensionally than the terrain for Infinity. Like the walls and stuff like that are slightly different. It doesn't go together in like as unique as like stairwell shapes and like all kinds of sort of weird shapes. But it's pretty attractive for what it is. And I've of course taken some additional steps of like gluing everything and cutting off tabs and sharpieing and stuff as well. So this is a pretty quick build, let me tell you. So these just slot in, and then again the tops of the pillars. I actually quite like these walls. They're functional, but they look, the addition of these little tops actually really makes them like a lot less rudimentary than I thought they would be. Like I assumed they were just gonna be flat walls, you know what I mean? But adding these little like pillar tops to them actually makes them really attractive. Those are pretty great for what they are. One thing with the cardstock that CB's been doing, man, they really do think about the fact that in a lot of their games, the terrain is one, it makes the game more attractive, and 2, it is the third player. Between 2 people, you have to have like a decent amount of terrain. So there's the 2 other walls, and we get the 2 more low walls, which I mean, they're so quick to build, I'll just build them again. Oh, and apparently I didn't punch the middles, but there are middles. I just realized, which I'll punch out right now. And just quickly do this. Having the right thing to punch stuff out too actually does save you a lot of time. So just having something flat like this, you could even use like the back handle of like a kitchen butter knife or something like that if you needed to. I'm just using this because it's what I always use and it's handy. There are central slats that come out on these as well. I just didn't notice on the first ones. But I'll punch those real fast. There's 6 of them. And then we'll glue the feeties on. Age-old question, where does Napoleon keep his armies? In his sleeveys. That's right, that's why you guys come here, it's for the dad jokes. And then we're done. That's all the terrain. We can see how it looks on this little mat. I'll skim the mat out so you guys can see the just the spread of what it looks like real fast. And this terrain pack's finished. So like obviously I'm comparing this to the terrain packs for Infinity, which basically come with 2 small, 2 large, and some scatter. You get like some low, much smaller versions of these walls, like very low small walls, and usually 2 sort of like advertising consoles. And this is like a comparable amount of terrain. You're gonna get additional, obviously these are taking up some footprint that you would have be buildings in the Infinity like terrain packs, but this is including the fact that you have all the tokens and stuff, which you don't in the modern packs. They usually say that for the starter set. So usually the 2-player starter set that they do for each edition comes with tokens, templates, and stuff like that built into it. And the later ones also come with like an advanced expansion pack. So I'm really hoping they do an expansion pack for this that like adds to the farm or adds like additional cool features. I think that'd be really slick. And this is, I mean, the quality is just as good as the Infinity stuff, I would say for sure. It's obviously just a different style. So there we go. I'm thinking that was about half an hour, and I got all this stuff built, including my little bits of mania. You know what? I will do it just to like be true to myself and to be true to the time limit I'm doing. I'll clip the tabs on that building too, but that's looking like it's done. So there's my 4 little walls and fences. Yeah, I'll clip these suckers as well. now that they're on here. And I would wait until they're on actually to clip them, because then you've got, you can keep what's glued, and then the flush part can come all the way down. Yeah, that was easy. Easy, easy. Woof, that one flew. Look at me doing it away from myself now, like a smart guy. A guy that learned something. If I take you to the hospital, Peter, you won't learn anything. And then this side, and we are done. Yeah, that ain't bad at all. What a nice little terrain pack. Especially for fantasy terrain. There's, I mean, there's a bunch of different companies that make this stuff. Battle Systems makes like a fantasy terrain pack. I think Lane at Tinker Turf's been making fantasy terrain stuff too. So to see CB now doing it, that just means there's more cool stuff out there for everybody. And this is just as good for generic fantasy games and stuff as well. So I'm sure for those D&D players, when this stuff goes on the market, like just generally available by itself, because I'm sure it will at some point, because CB usually makes these things available as like separate packs for fun at your table real quick. This is a very handy buy for someone that just wants a nice village for their, I don't know, D&D games or Rangers of Shadow Deep games or whatever. It's got a greatest hits basically of terrain, and if you don't need all the counters and stuff for playing whatever game you're planning on playing, then that's just bonus. There we go, done. All right, let's see it with the mat, because that is of course the last component we haven't really looked at here, and it's just a poster mat. It's nothing fancy, so if you're looking for like a neoprene mat in this thing, you're not getting that. You're just getting a poster mat, but it's a neat little 2x2. And it's not scaled too much by any kind of terrain, or shows my head keeps going off the top of this thing. I don't think I moved it. I'm not on a taller chair, so I'm not really sure what's happening. But there it is. Yeah, this is more than enough terrain to fill this guy up. And then some little scattery bits too. Not too shabby. Yeah, we can see the buildings on here. There's our little walls. Oh yeah, that's lots. When you throw in like the 2D stuff, like the rough ground and all this, that's a real full table actually. Put a little bit of farm fencing near everything. Not bad. Honestly, that's a decent. I mean, it completely fills this 2x2. And if you want some scale, there's your 15 mil ruler for scale. And yeah, like about a half hour to build. So right out of the box, you got your attractive terrain set up. You got your miniatures. Chuck a couple down here. Obviously, I haven't painted them yet. Some orcs and some humans to go fight each other. Some hegemony and some northern tribes. Some bucklemen and the war doc hanging out with the war surgeon. Sorry, hanging out with their boss and some northern tribes to go and murder them. So there we go. That's the complete build for the Bakhlia Farm Scenery Pack. And of course, this comes in the WARCROW 2-player starter set. This is the Winds of the North. And some advice and tips on putting it together. So if you get your hands on this at Gen Con this weekend, which is I think happening the weekend this video is coming out, then have a great time building it. You could very easily put this stuff together in your hotel room and be playing right away. It is an all-in-one box, and it's available, I think, from the CB website now, and probably, I imagine, they're going to have it up there at Gen Con. So thanks for checking this out. We'll see you for the next step, which is where I start painting one of these two sides, and my patrons can argue over which one I paint first in the comments. I will do a further video on the Northern Tribes Outward Ice Bear, who's a big, cool, like armored polar bear thing coming up soon, and yeah, and that'll basically conclude the assembly of this box set, then the whole pre-order bundle. And this weekend you can check out my GMG review of the hardcover rulebook that's also coming out and available right now. I think at Gen Con this weekend that you can check out. So big thanks for watching. Till next time, Ash.